Hello on the Rockers. Today we are among royalty, one of the most acclaimed comics of her generation, Tony Award nominee, multiple Emmy Award winner, Laurence Olivier Award nominee, Susie Edward Izzard is here to do a deep dive in her career and her North American tour of a one-person show, Hamlet, with my co-host, model musician, Steven Dehler, and me, your sassy host with the sassy most, buns and bows and pantyhose. It's On the Rocks podcast.
The place where we're too glam to give a damn. Raise a glass, Alexander.
It's On the Rocks.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
All right, welcome to the show. Follow us on Instagram and on TikTok at On the Rocks on Air and on Facebook On the Rocks Radio Show. Send us an email. Book us for a pride, wedding, funeral, quinceanera, bris. We don't care. We'll show up. Info at ontherocksradioshow.com. Also send us your comments, your guest requests, and your guest questions.
Yes, this show is presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to every one of our over 400 episodes at ontherocksradioshow.com, YouTube, Facebook Watch, on I Love Gay LGBTQ, and Barrelwood Magazine.
Rawr. All right. Let's welcome our guest, the diva of the hour. Well, diva besides us, Susie Eddie Izzard, a Tony Award nominated and double Emmy Award winning actor. Eddie Izzard's boundary-pushing career includes critically acclaimed roles in theater, film, and television. On Broadway, Izzard stewarded Roundabout Theater Company's 2003 revival of A Day in the Death of Joe A., garnering the Tony nomination for leading actor in a play, and appeared in David Mamet's Race. Major London staging credits include The Cryptogram, Edward II, Joe Egg, and Lenny. Izzard made her West End debut in 1993 in her show Live at the Ambassadors, receiving an Olivier Award nomination for Outstanding Achievement. Izzard's film roles includes Stephen Frears' Victorian Abdul opposite Dame Judi Dench, Julie Taymor's Across the Universe, Peter Bogdanovich's The Cat's Meow, Valkyrie, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, the recent Dr. Jekyll, in which she plays Dr. Nina Jekyll and Rachel Hyde. As well, she appeared in Charlie Koval's Chaos with Jeff Goldblum. She's also been seen as Dr. Abel Gideon in Hannibal and in FX's critically acclaimed series, The Riches, one of my favorite shows that ended too soon. And Izzard both starred and executive produced for that show. Following a triple extended engagement in New York, a box office record-breaking 2-week run in Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, and a 6-week run in London, she's bringing her one-person production of Hamlet to Los Angeles to continue her North American tour. Hamlet received a New York Outer Critics Circle Award nomination for Outstanding Solo Performance, as well as a nomination for the New York Drama League's Distinguished Performance Award. Susie plays 23 characters alone on stage. Let's take a look.
I have of late lost all my mirth.
The time is out of joint.
Why, it's as easy as lying. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all.
It is not madness!
Please welcome the Susie Eddie Izzard. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you.
To say your sense of humor, your opinion, your presentation, your outlook on life is unconventional is an understatement. You were born in Yemen. You kind of moved around all over as a kid. You sadly lost your mom at a very early age. So where in all of this early childhood and moving around did you find your sense of humor through all of that? How did you start developing your voice?
Actually, that's a very good point. I actually think it's genetic. I think Dad had a very good sense of humor. Mum had a milder sense of humor. She did have a sense of humor, but I don't remember her doing jokes. But I know that she liked a double act called Flanders and Swan, who did fun musical comedy songs. So knowing their work, if Mum liked that, and she liked performing as well. So that was Mum's sense of humor. But Dad's was he liked surreal humor. A show called The Goon Show that was on the radios that Peter Sellers you'll know of, and that led into Monty Python. They all watched that Monty Python. So that's where it came from. So Dad has it, my older brother Mark has it, and I have it. The same sense of humor, really. It made different levels of dryness, but essentially that's where humor comes from.
And what was your access to showbiz and entertainment? What were you watching while growing up besides that? Where did your first impressions come from?
Well, zero access to the entertainment industry. It wasn't for a while until I realized, oh, you could be in it. These are human beings. I saw these human beings doing things. But I thought, those human beings must be real people who have chosen to be in this as an industry and do it for a living. So that was about 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. But before that, it was just watching on television, really. We didn't go out to theaters much. I do remember I got quite obsessed with Americana, things coming from America. So on television, when I was in Northern Ireland, it was I Love Lucy and Bewitched were the two that struck me as I remember that. Actually, also The Virginian later on, and anything that was coming from America, I thought, this is more than what we have, because the Hollywood industry, the fun, excitement, obviously Hollywood is and was this machine. Come on, we got to entertain the masses. Get the thing, horses, things, bang, shoot, everyone run. Bewitched, it's magical. What's going on? I Love Lucy, comedy. So all these things, and it sounded somewhat more interesting to me than things in Britain, even though we had fun things there, which I did like. But America was always this place that I wanted to get to. So I grew up with that. And at a certain age, well, actually at 7, I decided I wanted to be in plays. After Mum died, I saw a play, and I thought I want to do this dramatic acting, whatever it is, comedy or drama. That's for me. Probably replacing the audience for my mum's affection, the audience affection. And then as time went on, because I'm dyslexic, I couldn't really sight read for auditions at school. So they never gave me any good roles. So I discovered comedy. You could do it. You could write comedy yourself. And I moved into more of a comedy-centric viewpoint of having a career in that, doing a Monty Python kind of thing. And then I dropped out of university at 19, and it took me ages to take off. And then I doubled down and said, right, I'm going to get separate agents, which is unusual. I have a dramatic agent and a comedy agent. And I said, I want to just push for dramas here and then do surreal stand-up comedy and tour that around the world in several languages, the comedy. So that's how I'm doing it. And it's an odd career. It is an unusual career.
And it must have been amazing to kind of come full circle and work with Monty Python too, and take the stage with them.
Yes, get to know them a little bit. I'm like a sad fan, really, with them. And they did their final 10 shows, final 10 performances, we believe, that was down at the about 11 years ago now, 2014, could even be more, 12 years ago. And I was there for most of them, 7 out of 10 of them. So that's fantastic. They are my Mount Olympus heroes. In comedy, but just like Shakespeare, he went from his comedies to his dramas and tragedies, and I have done the same, and I'm now performing Hamlet around the world, which is a drama. People think, oh, you've done a comedy version. I have not. Know this when you come to see my Hamlet in Los Angeles, that it is, or wherever you see it, it is a dramatic version of it. There are comedic elements in it, but it is faithful to the tragedy of Hamlet by William Shakespeare.
And I think what an incredible artist, somebody like you, that you do the comedy very well, you do the drama very well. We know Shakespeare has this dark humor throughout everything that he's written. But as a kid, I want to know, I'm always so fascinated with, our legends today, what kind of kids they were. Were you the class clown? Were you the theater nerd, even though, you weren't being cast and stuff? Or...
I wasn't the theatre nerd. I was the action movie nerd. I do know my action. I got into Shakespeare actually through Polanski's Macbeth, which I realized, it's an action thriller. As soon as the double-bladed axe went into Banquo's back, and I thought, this is a story. This is, again, a visceral story. I use this word visceral a lot because I think that's what I'm bringing to the stage with my Hamlet. This gut reaction thing where you react emotively rather than I don't. There is an intellectual capacity to any good play, but I want people to get it on a gut level first. And that's through Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet as well. Those things where you really grab it, and a lot of people can say, this is Shakespeare. Now I get it, because I do not believe that Shakespeare was writing material so that people could be confused. I don't think that in 1601, when Hamlet came out, he wanted people sitting there going, now what is this? I don't know what he's talking about there. I'm going to go and look this up afterwards. I just don't believe he did that. I believe it was grabbable in the time. Some of the words have changed, but we don't know exactly what versions he used in his play. So you do your adaptation, and then we serve the play. We make the play so that kids from 9 to 90 can grab it and be emotionally moved by it. So as a kid growing up, I was a bit of the class. I became the class funny person from about 16, 17. I was trying to impress girls, and I wasn't doing any sports. I had done sports up to the age of 12, soccer, football. I was very big in that, but I went to a school that didn't play it, which is insane in my country. And but I did find that I could do ad libs with the teacher, particularly the chemistry teacher. So I started dropping those in, and whenever he paused as he was writing something from chemistry on the board, I would drop a line in there or finish his sentence, and that started getting laughs. And so I thought, oh, this is good. I can practice that. I deliberately desired to do that. So let's keep pushing on this, because that's going to work and makes me feel good about myself, even though the teacher didn't like it, kept throwing chalk at me. And that's where I'd already decided I liked comedy, but this helped it move on up. And then I dropped out of university at 19 and pushed very hard to do sketch comedy, and then street performing very similar to how Shakespeare's actors would perform. They perform in the open air with real light and the people reacting right in the streets in front of them. And then going into stand-up comedy and dramatic acting where I live now.
Well, I love the idea of you street performing in the early 80s. I mean, a whole different culture, a whole different style of performance. When you look back at everything that you've done in your career, when you look back at those early days on the streets performing, what do you miss about those kind of performing days where you were in life?
Well, I miss the pure openness, the fact that the people were right there on the street. There was the artifice had gone. This is when I started dismantling the artifice of theatre, because theatre built up artifice from the early theatres that were built in Shakespeare's time, because there weren't theatres before that. People were strolling players, travelling players before that. And so I miss that openness and that the ability to play around with people, with traffic, with whatever's going on in front of you. But it was tough as well, because it could rain on you, it could snow on you, it could be totally windy. It just could be very unpleasant for the audience to be there. So there's a lot of things that it's kind of good to get away from, because you could do a good show and then it just starts raining and then the audience disappear, and so you don't earn anything that day. So but yeah, it was a wonderful training. I don't know if I would want to stay there I didn't want to stay there forever. I had to move on and get known, because you don't get known in street performing. You're just, it's that person over there doing that show. They wear a white jacket. That's them. And they don't know your name. They can't remember your name because there's no posters, there's no advertising. Yeah. They don't know when you're going to be on. So you had to move off and in and up and get into theatre so you could play and perform, and people go, it's that person.
That kind of reminds me of like West Hollywood, when the drag queens go into the streets. It's very of that old kind of comedy where they have to be on and interact with people.
Right. It's becoming very popular right now, where they're interviewing people in the streets and interacting with people in the streets. Every time I work in West Hollywood, so I go walk down the street and all you see is people performing on the sidewalk now.
We're going back to the streets, Susie. Now, getting into stand-up, we know that your comedy style, your stand-up is very unique. It's outside the box. So when you first got into stand-up, were you trying to be the stand-up where the joke's set up and the bump, or did you hit the scene with your own style?
I didn't hit the scene with my own style, but I had studied what other stand-ups did, and it was Richard Pryor's stand-up, Billy Connolly, Scottish comedian, his stand-up. I wanted storytelling, and then I wanted to set up vignettes, little stories where you could say, isn't it weird if this happens or that happens? There's a famous sketch in the comedy I do, which is Darth Vader going into a cantina, a cafeteria, and ordering penne alla arrabbiata, and the woman behind the counter is going, "You need a tray," and he's going, "I don't think I do." And there's this status play that happens between two people. So those sketches is what I came from, and so I think my style is slightly unusual, but I thought it was what other people were doing in stand-up. It just seems that they weren't really, but I was never that stand-up going, "Hey, where are you from?" China, China, my hometown. I never went into that kind of stand-up. I was always someone talking weird, surreal stories. So I was very influenced by Monty Python and doing stuff that was kind of like their sketch comedy, but in a stand-up form. And I developed the narrator part of it, because they don't do that. They just cut sketch to sketch to sketch, characters to characters to characters, whereas I'm always on stage going, and this is odd as well. Why were the dinosaurs on the Earth for 165 million years? Was that a plan? Is there a sentient God who's saying, yes, 165 million years of huge idiots? That's what I want. Should we try the huge idiots ad for 2 weeks, sir? No, 165 million years, please. What, to fine-tune it? No fine-tuning. Just, I want a flat line of development. Any poetry? No poetry. No poetry, no game shows, no banjo playing, just rar. That's all I want them to do for 165. If you were down here as a historian and say, history is really boring during this time, they have just gone R for 160. So I would find these themes of comedy like that, just talking about what are the dinosaurs? Why were they here for so long? Is that a plan? If it's a plan, it's the weirdest plan I've ever heard of. If it's not a plan and they were just here, okay. Big monsters, 165 million years, and then someone hit them with a big rock and they all died. So I try and take human sensibility now and put it into all of history and things, and talking about spiders or flies. What's the point of flies? They say spiders are very necessary because of this, that, the other. So I just look at everything. That's the great thing in stand-up. You can look at anything and everything. But it was only one part of my life, and I wanted to head towards acting. So I'm doing this two thing. It does confuse people. Some people do come along to Hamlet thinking, "Oh, you've done a comedy version." No laughs here, mate. So be prepared to be moved, to be emotionally moved, as opposed to being there's very few. There are occasional laughs, 2 laughs, maybe 2, maybe 3. That's it.
And Susie, it's funny that you mentioned the dinosaur line of thinking. I saw you at the Hollywood Bowl years ago, sold out. You ran the whole length of the Hollywood Bowl from the stage.
You were there first time.
Yeah, all the way to the very last bleacher and then back again. But you talked about the dinosaurs in this reel, and I even have it written down here. I have become an atheist over the last few years, and when I get into like a happy hour, you and I have had these conversations, but I have my drinks in me, I always go to your dinosaur line of thinking, and that shuts people up because they cannot refute it. They cannot fight against it. And that story, that line of thinking has been so useful for me. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, it's God is a thing. I'm happy that to be a God, but if there is, I need him to come down here and explain what's going on at the moment politically, what went on with Hitler back in the 30s, explain all the bad people in the world, why are they there, and if he's got a good explanation, I can't see a good explanation, and if not, if you take God out of the equation, then you go, oh God, it begins to make sense. It's just stuff happening, and certain people get control, and then it stops, and things get better. But gradually, I'm kind of positive on the world. I'm a glass is 2/3 full person. So, if you draw a graph of of human rights from ancient Egypt to now, it gradually moves forward and gets better, even though sometimes it flatlines, sometimes it goes backwards, but then it turns around and comes back forwards again. So, yes, I just think keep moving forward, stay strong, see a negative, do a double positive, which is when I started, improvising in French and German and Spanish and adding all those languages to my stand-up. So.
When we were preparing for this interview, we were telling our friends that we had the opportunity to interview, and everybody's like, wow. Your fandom spans generations. It spans different genres. It spans sexuality, religion, class, everything. What is it about you that your fans subscribe to so much in such a diverse way? When you go to an Eddie Izzard show, you look around and it's like potpourri. There's just everything.
Well, potpourri, yes, intellectual potpourri. That's what I'm aiming for. It's or potpourri, as I like to call it.
Smells even better.
I hopefully think that I try to approach things not in an intellectual way, but in an intelligent way. I do think there's a difference between them. And I try and apply my intelligence and common sense to things. Those are two things. I inherited them from my father, maybe from my mother, but I never really got to know her. She wasn't around long enough for me to get to know that. But definitely from Dad, common sense, logic, and intelligence. And you say, why this? Why not that? And this is a bit bonkers. And have a look at this. And then you just an acting out of the characters, which I get from Python. So hopefully people from all sorts of different backgrounds just go, this is intelligent kind of humor. Because some people might think, oh, you're in the LGBTQ plus group, so therefore your comedy will be LGBTQ plus. And it's not essentially. I am trans, but that's got sort of nothing to do with it. I'm just going to talk about the history of the universe and dinosaurs and kings like Henry VIII and weird people like that and stuff that's went on. And spiders, what are they doing here? They just seem to scare the hell out of everyone. Surely spiders are supposed to catch flies in their spider's web, but I see very few flies in spider's web, so I think spiders are not getting the job done and should be fired and should be working somewhere else. They just scare us. They just they appear in the lounge usually. You go, whoa, what's it doing there? And then they don't move. Then they move very fast, and it's not good. So I just apply common sense and it's a childlike quality, I think, rather than childish. It's a childlike quality that I bring to it. There's a child in all of us, and sometimes life pushes it out, or we're encouraged to push it back and be adult and very sensible about things. But I think people come along to see me play and think like a child with an adult's brain, but with childlike ideas, and that can be fun.
Well, and kids sometimes ask the most poignant questions because they're not bogged down by all this other lines of thought or society or whatever. They're inquisitive. They're innocent, I guess.
Yeah.
Susie, we have a lot of actors that watch the show, and so we like to talk about certain roles. I have to tell you, you've been able to play many real-life individuals: Cat's Meow, Valkyrie, Castle in the Sky, Shadow Vampire. Your portrayal of Charlie Chaplin in Cat's Meow captivated me from the minute you hit the screen. For me, it was a masterclass in acting. As an actor approaching this character, Charlie Chaplin, people think that they know Charlie Chaplin, the funny man, but you also got the sadness, the darkness that was a part of his life. What was your creative process when starting with this character? Where did you start?
I started actually from back in street performing, because a lot of the early screen comedians were essentially, they came from vaudeville and music hall, as Chaplin did. And they had been doing very visual performance things in those theaters. On the street, maybe not so much, but all the street performers I was working with in the late 80s, they had a similarity, and a lot of them loved, particularly Buster Keaton. They would go and see the General. We went and saw the General with live orchestras. I went and saw Chaplin films with live orchestras. I saw City Lights, and I realized that he had grown up where I was. Every time I take the bus in to go and perform on the streets of London at Covent Garden, I would go past a house that said Charlie Chaplin used to live here, and he grew up in such poverty as well. So I was interested in his story because I was ambitious, and I wanted to go to America. I was talking to you about the Americana that interested me when I was younger, and he did too. Apparently his father, who definitely was a performer, but apparently also performed in New York, which must have sat in Charlie's mind. And he wanted to go there, and he got there, and he said, I'm staying here. I'm going to push like crazy, just like Cary Grant did as well. If you know about Cary Grant, who came from Bristol and came to America and said, I'm staying here. I'm not going back. So that was something that drove me forward, and I wanted to get to America and perform in this way. But the Chaplin that I was playing in the film Cat's Meow, I'd read quite a lot about him, where his position was. He was trying to get the Gold Rush made. He'd already done a load of location filming, which is very unusual at that time. This is 1923. He'd just done The Kid. The Kid was about to come out and become a massive success. And then this whole thing with Marion Davis. And Marion Davis was married was not married, but William Randolph Hearst was married to his wife and had the East Coast where he lived, and then he went to the West Coast, and a different life appeared, and his wife on the East Coast seemed to be sort of okay with that, and Marion Davis would hang out with Hearst, and whatever would happen there, and this was portrayed in the film Cat's Meow, and you see a story that people wonder whether that was the story that happened, and there was a shooting there was a death, or did it happen, or how did it happen? Somebody suddenly died very quickly who used to run a film studio there, and it was interesting trying to put my mind back into those times and drive Chaplin with what I know of someone who's a performer who wanted to move into film, and he was that person who at this point was doing fantastically well in film, but not great in his relationships. His relationships were kind of all over the place, and I wanted to bring a certain immediacy to him, and I couldn't. He was physically very adept. If you watch the rink, I think he's great skating there, amazing. The physicality, the things he could do physically were kind of amazing, and I couldn't really compete with that. I couldn't just learn that to do that in a second, like a couple of weeks between getting the part, 2 or 3 weeks between getting the part and then we starting filming, which quite often happens for actors. But I did want to. He admired stand-up comedians, and he didn't speak in all his early films, only in his later films. So I think he wanted to develop that. He initially found a power in not having it, and then he thought, actually, I'd like to have that as part of my thing. So I wanted to give him that, and this whole relationship with Marion Davis, who I do think they had a big affair, and how far it went, did they consummate it? I think probably so. It's very difficult to work it out, but if you read The Chief, I think The Chief is about William Randolph Hearst, and it does say that Marion and Chaplin were found in a cabin just the weekend before making love, which means, I suppose, in the 20s, kissing, fooling around, as opposed to the act of having sex. So they were there, they were an item, they filmed getting married at Cosmopolitan Films. So I knew a lot of this history, a lot of the actual facts that was going on before that weekend where that was filmed. So I wanted to bring that to it. But Ed Herman, fantastic as Hearst. Yes. And a lot of the cast just brought, just wonderful actors in there. So it was great. And we're filming in Greece as well, in Greece. Stunt doubling for the west coast of California. So yeah, I just love doing it. So, and it's a quiet film. It came out, wasn't really promoted hugely, but has landed well over the years with people. People seem to love it.
So well, the cast, Joanna Lumley was in it, Jennifer Tilly, just everybody, Kirsten Davis. Okay, Hamlet. We've seen many productions of Hamlet over the years. We've seen a one-person version of Hamlet. We've seen reboots. We've seen Hamlet brought into modern times. Why Hamlet? What was your decision for why Hamlet of Shakespeare's plays, and why now? Beyond bringing it to modern audiences, why this piece?
The now is purely the time. I mean, it looks like with Hamlet coming out, the film, and other people doing Hamlet as well, it looks like I've timed it to coincide with all that. It is just the time that it came to get to here. But when I was at school, I wanted to act. I really wanted to act. And like kids in America might have any English-speaking country, you might be given, okay, we're going to study this Hamlet play, and you'd be reading it out in the classroom. And I thought, this is great, because I want to be an actor. And as I read the Elizabethan verse, I found it very tricky. I am just severely atypically dyslexic. So getting the words from page through brain and out to mouth is tricky, especially when it's Elizabethan verse. It makes it even harder. So I was intimidated by Shakespeare, as many kids are. And I thought, okay, well, that is not for me, really. So I really pushed back on Shakespeare, even though I did Comedy of Errors at school, one of his plays, and I just thought, I'm not doing that. And as time went on, and I did comedy, and that started taking off, then I got a separate acting agent, and I started pushing on my drama, and I worked up to getting Tony nominated on Broadway for Best Actor, along with, who was it? Stanley Tucci was in that year, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. So, great bunch of people that I was linked. So my acting roles are getting better, and I thought, now I want to do Shakespeare, but no one was really throwing things because my career is so unusual. I don't think I'm top of the list when people say, let's throw some really big roles at this person. So I was going through roles, trying to work out, putting out feelers, saying, can we get this going? Is this, Richard III interested me, Iago as a place to come in, and it wasn't really happening. And then I started doing Great Expectations as a solo show because I realized I could. I do this technique of talking to different characters, imaginary characters on the stage in my comedy, and I realized it could be done in drama with no real difference. It's just a technique, and you're getting the audience to believe that the other characters are there. So Great Expectations worked very well in New York, then very well in London, and I just thought, I'm doing Hamlet now. So I just went for this play, which is a difficult play, but I want to be challenged. I wanted to challenge myself and push hard. And Selena Cadell, who I'd been working with on different Shakespeare and things, I said, "Will you direct it?" And we took an adaptation. My older brother, who I'd worked with on he's expert in French, German, and Spanish. So all the stand-ups I've done in different languages and touring Germany, touring France in French, touring Spain in Spanish. I've worked with him, and I approached him and said, "Will you do the adaptation on this?" And there are 3 different versions of Hamlet. So nearly everyone does an adaptation. Doing the full version, it probably wasn't done back in 1601. People sitting around for 4.5 hours. I don't think that's how that worked. And I think probably he added stuff onto it, which is what scholars now believe, to the different versions that were out. Because you have to choose your version, choose how you want to drive the story. The story is a found story. It wasn't coming from Shakespeare's mind. It's from Saxo Grammaticus, a Danish historian who'd written out of a real legend. And so that story was there. We made the adaptation. And the now is that it took this time to get to this place. And I said, I want to do Hamlet, and I want to do it now. And that was 2 years ago. And then we opened in New York, and then it did well. And so we went to Chicago and broke box office records, and down through London, and now all through the UK. And now this is the 3rd tour of America, 50,000 tickets sold. So the now is happenstance, really. It's just it's taken this long, and maybe it's right that it should have taken this long to get here. But I'm loving it, and over 200 performances now. So I'm just, every night is press night. Every night I go out there to win the audience over, and I love living on that stage in this very, very difficult play. And it's a family tearing itself apart. It's a country tearing itself apart, but it moves us even 400 years later.
What do you connect with most with the character? Just because we know you play 23 characters, but the character Hamlet itself, how do you associate most with the character? How are you the most different?
The over-analysis. Well, the analysis, I'm very big on analysis. I have instinct in one hand and analytical in the other hand. And I think the character Hamlet may be based on Shakespeare, because he was a kid who did not go to university. And he had to work out how to break through, and all these university writers who are writing their plays and get taken seriously along with them. And so he had to work out the best way of doing things, the type of plays to write. Starting with comedies, you need to get taken more seriously, push into your dramas. And I am very analytical. Hamlet overanalyzes because he gets told by his father to avenge him at the end of Act 1, but 4 more acts happen and he still hasn't done it because he keeps trying to analyze what's the best thing for his conscience, to be able to go to God, to go to heaven after he has done this, as opposed to go to hell for doing the wrong thing. He constantly talks about conscience. So, and I'm quite happy with my conscience. He had to get happy with his. I don't have to avenge anyone, so it's a much easier journey for me. But the analysis part of it, that is very much me. The fighting part of it is also would have been me, but I've had to fight people have given me grief in the streets. I have had fights in the streets, so I'm quite happy to fight. In the end, he's doing a organized joust when he fights against Laertes. So it's not I'm going to kill you, I am a warrior. He actually talks about Fortinbras, the Norwegian prince who comes down. He is the real warrior, and Hamlet would like to be like him. But I think I'm probably more fierce than Hamlet in that area. But there's some great. If you look down the history of sword fights, the Olivier sword fight is wonderful. Olivier really. I'm not wild about everything that Olivier did, but his sword fight with Laertes is excellent, and that has influenced mine in that way. But other differences, I wouldn't have treated Ophelia like that. He was worried about regime change. When regime change happened, I know it's all in the political air at the moment, but if an uncle comes in and takes over from the king's line, which did happen back then, because the kings were not all this bloodline passing on of the kingship, the monarchy was not so set up. There used to be a group of elders that were there, especially in the 1000s, who would decide who it should be passed on to. So passing it on to the uncle is not so unusual, but it means that Hamlet's line is cut off. And if the uncle has kids, then it will go down his line. So he's got to be wary for himself about what's going to happen. And I would have been quicker off the mark than Hamlet. His father says, "Avenge me," and he takes 4 acts to avenge him, and I would have done it much quicker than him. I would have erred more to the Laertes is much more hot-blooded, and Hamlet's almost so cold-blooded or so unblooded that he just waits almost forever, almost too late. He's already dying when he decides to kill the king. Maybe there's nothing to lose then, so the stakes are down. But it's lasted as this great play, even though it is quite curious and odd in many different places, and you have to be. It encourages great acting to come out of people to make the play land well.
Well, and there is this school of thought too that Hamlet, he wasn't just overanalyzing, but he was a coward. He was afraid to actually take action, like you said, until, well, I have nothing else to lose.
Exactly. He has this. He says, "Am I a coward?" And it does look kind of cowardly. And this thing of thinking too precisely on the event, he says, a thought which is one quarter good idea and 3 parts coward, 1 part of analysis. And so, yeah, he's working out. He says, I'm not doing anything. I think I am a coward. But he's also looking at himself in this objective way, saying, is that me? Then he tries to kill the king in the church, but he can't kill the king in the church because that's not going to work. It's supposed to be hallowed ground. Laertes is quite happy about doing that. So it's an interesting journey through an adult mind, and you don't know what age he is, because you think, oh, he's at university, he's going back to Wittenberg for university, so he's early 20s, but then it seems he's 30, according to the sexton, the gravedigger. He's 30 because he's been around as long as the sexton. He started his job the day that Hamlet was born, so that's 30 years. So I think Shakespeare is free and loose, and sometimes whatever they wrote down, because it was the 2 people, Hebbings and Condell, who wrote down the words in the first folio, and there was a first quarto, second quarto, and first folio. All of them are slightly different, or somewhat different, or even largely different. So you have to just take your pick and see it, because Shakespeare did not write underneath it, "I approve this version of the play," as you do in your political messaging. He just didn't do that, and you think, so which one was it? What was it? And you can't tell. You have to make your own decisions.
So do you think this production, Hamlet, for our present day, is it telling us to become more involved? We know that you are very politically involved. You stick by what you believe as a celebrity. Here there's this like, well, celebrities shouldn't get involved in politics. Is Hamlet telling an audience to not be cowardly in our approach to what's happening here in the U.S. especially?
I don't think Shakespeare is telling everyone a message out of it. This is what you should do. He's just, I think with this play, he's showing what can happen, has happened, will happen with certain people, with certain characters, and being true to oneself is the right thing, but having a positive heart as well, because if you're true to yourself and you're a horrible person, that's not good. But I do not believe, I believe that everyone should be political. Everyone should be thoughtful about what is going to happen, the best way forward, that everyone in the world has the right to a fair chance in life, and then we should live and let live and reach out and make connections rather than break connections. And there's other people in the world who are saying, no, break connections rather than make them, and you push back against people. I just think that is not the way forward for humanity. Humanity we have got to make it a fair world for 8 billion people by the end of this century. I think those are the stakes. Otherwise, we're not going to make it to the next century. No one's watching over us. No one's helping us. It's up to us. So these are tough times, but they will get better. Hang in there, everyone. Do what you can. And if you see a negative, do a double positive. Come up with ideas of doing things in a more positive way that you hadn't even thought of. That's why I started performing, improvising in French, developing shows in French and in German, which I'd never done before. So after Brexit happened, which I really thought was a bad move, and just separates out. If Europe comes apart, that's not good. Europe is now coming together, which is a great thing. But that's why I started standing up on stage in Paris and going, "Bonsoir Paris, je suis ici pour improviser, oui, pourquoi pas." And it was 2 months there, 2 shows a night for 2 months. It was beautiful.
I have to know, as an actor, usually, and as an actor, before a show starts, we're warming up, we're getting in our one character. How does an actor prepare? What's your warm-up process for this in playing 23 characters?
I'm always out there. I'm actually always ready to go on. If they said, look, something has happened, you have to do the show right now downstairs, outside, I can do that. I was in Oxford, and near the Randolph Hotel, which features in Inspector Morse. If anyone sees it, it's one of their famous hotels. And I think it's the Oxford Playhouse next to it where I was going to play. And all the power went out in the block. And so it was down. I thought, can we do the performance? I'm not sure. The power is out. We're trying to get it back on. And I found there was a street performance area outside it. And I said, well, I'll do it. I'll do Hamlet outside on the street if I can't do it inside. So I'm always ready. I don't go through a warming up. Let's get me out of this mindset of real life and into this place. I actually have the place of Hamlet sitting in my head all the time. So I'm actually eager to get out, because I know that if you're not eager, if you're thinking, oh God, I've got to go and do this show now, I've got to go to this performance, I've got to be these people, I've got to be these people who all end up having dying, essentially. Spoiler alerts here, but they all have not a good time. That is not a positive place for an actor to be thinking they're reluctant to go out there. I'm always eager to get out there, and I'm always thinking in that space. And I run the lines sometimes before I go to bed at night. I run one act through in my head. So that is my way. I don't have a warm-up style where I have to go do certain things, certain techniques, certain games, certain whatever it is. Apart from vocal training, I'm always there and ready to be on stage and ready to do the first scene, and the second scene is in my head, and the third. All of them, they're all just sitting there waiting for me to relive them again.
Susie, people that don't have a lot of experience with the trans experience, we've seen Susie in a very definite way over the last few years. Some people say, oh, Eddie Izzard came out as trans over the last few years. They don't understand that this is not the case.
No.
You have been out publicly as trans since your late 20s, but your trans experience started when you were very, very young.
Yeah, I knew when I was 5, and I came out when I was 23. So it's 40 years this January since I've been out. So if you add Susie to your name, that's just adding a name, Yeah. And people talk about dead names. I don't have a dead name, so I'm Susie. Eddie Izzard, I prefer Susie. Don't mind Eddie, prefer she, her. Don't mind he, him. My older brother Mark, he jumps between Eddie and Susie, Susie and Eddie. It's all cool. Just other names are not my names, but these are the ones I'm playing with. And a number of people have 3 names now, so that's how I'm doing it. But I came out 40 years ago. I knew when I was 5. I didn't know the words, but I thought wearing a dress, that would be good, that'd be fun. And my peer group of young boys were going, no, this is not good. We will point at you and shout at you, and because some other kid was wearing his sister's dress, and I thought, okay, so I better not tell people at this point. So that took me, about 20 years before I could say, no, this is truthful, this is honest. I should tell people and get the conversations going. So in this world of people not doing the honesty thing, I thought it was good to be honest and get out there and just all LGBTQ people, they say, this is how I am, and we have to go through this Arthurian knight's quest of standing up for ourselves and saying this is how we exist in the space. So that's what I did, and I came out in 1985, and then my career was nowhere at the time, so I had to re-come out to the press in 1991 because they just didn't know I'd come out in 85. So I had to tell them, by the way, I am TV. It was TV and TS at that point. So the language had changed over the years. But anyone who says I've just come out has not been paying attention. I have been out for so many years now.
And Susie, how did you avoid being pigeonholed? When you look at all the different characters you played, if you take even 10 years of your career, you've played more characters in that than most actors do in their whole entire life. You've never been pigeonholed. How did you avoid that?
Well, there's 2 things here. Some people will play what I call signature roles. They have a signature performance, and we want that star in it, and they will play that signature role, and they can do that very well. And then they call back character actors. I think versatile actors is a better way. Some people will play characters that are completely different, and even up to lead actors playing completely different. Daniel Day-Lewis does seem very different in each role. So I seem to have that trait. Comes from when I started with the comedic characters were very different, and now the dramatic characters are really quite different, and they disappear. Sometimes people say you disappear into the roles, and That's sort of what I think is good to do, but you want to keep the every character has the chassis of myself, about 30% of my own character. Some characters are more 40, 50s, maybe 60% of me, but that interests me, and adding on layers to a character to portray something that is not you, is different to you, but living within that. So that is something that has always driven me since I started dramatic acting as separate to my comedic stand-up work.
Yeah, but I bet having like both them being so separate probably added more dynamics to both.
Yeah, I do think they can help each other, inform against each other. I do think one thing in stand-up comedy is quite scary. You're up there on your own, and I used to gabble quite a lot, speak very fast, and sometimes not even finish the words. And I do think doing drama, and particularly doing Shakespeare, really has helped me articulate better, and politics as well, to be able to articulate slow enough to be clear enough that I get through the words. But yes, these two can really help each other. One informs against the other, and backwards and forwards. So it's an interesting place to be. I didn't think I would quite be here. I thought I'd be somewhere else, because I thought I was just going to do a Monty Python type career and be acting, comedic roles in certain things, and do that in sketch comedies. I never thought I'd do stand up. I wanted to do acting initially, but I just thought I had to leave that behind. But in fact, I picked it up and ran with that as well. So yeah, it's great. There's still more things I want to do. I love doing films, and I haven't done film drama for a wee while, but I've got Hamlet between the teeth at the moment. So I can run around the world. We're going to Australia, New Zealand, want to go to India, maybe Japan, everywhere I can. Can I do it in France and in Germany? Maybe do the soliloquies in French and German, do the rest of it in English. I can't learn 13,500 words in each language. That would drive me nuts. But yeah, I'm driven, so I'm enjoying doing it, and it's arduous, but it's good to do. Good to bring it here to Los Angeles.
Making roles and making material and shifting it in your own way, it's something you do so well. I loved you in Across the Universe. You were in one portion of the movie, but you were such a standout from that film. Did you like working with Julie Taymor on that production? Yes, I did. She let me go. She just said, "Where do you want to take this?" I said, "Do I sing this? Do I sing this for the benefit of Mr. Kite?" And Being for the Benefit of the Kite is the official name. And the fact that it's John Lennon's song and he saw it as a poster, and that he sung it and that I've sung it as well, that is quite bonkers. And her working with all the dancers and this scene that we did was so surreal and so wonderful to do. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing that and being able to play this strange, unusual character and see where we could take him. What kind of director do you like working with? What do you need from your director? What do you do not need from your director? I don't mind because I've worked with a number of directors, Steven Soderbergh, Stephen Frears on Victorian Outdoor with Judi Dench, and Steven Soderbergh and the Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13. And they were both directors who said, obviously, I believe their logic is cast well and then let them go and see where they arrive. So they weren't bringing me to one side and said, "I think you should do this, I think you should push in that way." But I'd be happy to do that as well and work with directors like that. I have worked with less of those kind of directors, and if they said, "Look, we're going to improvise this scene," I'd be happy to do that, or strictly rehearse it and keep it to the words. I'm happy with that as well. I wanted to be open to all different types, be sort of ninja trained in different ways of approaching dramatic scenes, but also trying to work out what you need to make a dramatic scene work as opposed to a comedic scene. They are very different things. The bottom line of drama is to be truthful in your character and truthful in your scenes. And the bottom line of comedy is to be funny. You can even break characters sometimes and get away with it because people are enjoying the comedic situation, the comedic characters and where they are and what they are doing. And so I like... I do love drama. And in comedy, there's a thing of, okay, put the lights on, let's light the scene, it's a 2-shot or a 3-shot to get the comedy in. Someone could improvise, let's do it this way. Whereas in drama, they take
I feel a lot longer to light a scene. It becomes like an amazing painting. I've always delighted in being on location or in a studio and just looking at how they've lit the scene. And you look through the monitor, you can say, wow, this world through the monitor looks even better than the real world outside. And just fascinated by that. And then you go and portray. And I used to be really intimidated by performing in the cameras. I wanted so much because I broke into Pinewood Studios when I was 15, one of our big studios in the UK, and I so wanted to be in films. But then when I did my first films, there's a lot of lock it down. Okay, we're going to roll camera. Those early days of, my God, everyone's shouting, and now I've got to perform, and now I've just zoned that out. Anything locking it down, it doesn't matter. I'm just inside the role, inside the character, inside that space. And even if the cameras come to here, I don't feel them because they're a friend. They are there to take, there's talking about taking your soul. Yeah. I don't think it takes your soul, but it does. It takes the essence of what you're giving off and registers it so that people can be moved by it in whatever way, whatever motion that you are giving off at that point. So that does not scare. When I started acting in film, it really intimidated me, but now it doesn't.
I love that. We've been able to talk about everything. And just real fast, I have to say The Riches was one of my favorite shows. I think it's still so underappreciated because it really did change the content on TV at that time. It was such a good show.
Oh, yeah, we love doing it. It just, unfortunately, writer's strike and things happening and not quite the right numbers. But, it'll live on. And no one will never quite know what we were going to do after that, after the 2 seasons.
Well, I was going to say the way you're describing comedy and drama is like sweet versus savory. Yeah. And we're sort of like, which one do you consider your sweet and which one is your savory?
Oh.
Well, now, this is a very good point because I have analyzed that comedy is the sweet and the drama is the savory. Drama's like a main meal. Yeah. It has all the things and it can have sweet taste in it as well. So you can laugh in a drama, you can cry, you can be emotive, you can get angry, you can get visceral, you can shout at the screen. That's in a drama, and it's like a main meal of emotion. But comedy is like a dessert. And it's still an important thing, and people love it. Oh my God, these amazing desserts! But the tastes are all quite high, and it's quite almost druggy in a way. And some people, if they see you in comedy, they just want you to do more comedy. Yeah. So I see that as the dessert. I see comedy as the dessert. And I see drama as the savory courses with all the different tastes in there.
Yeah, fabulous. All right, last question. What is your message to your fans?
My message to fans is, I'd like to say live long and prosper. It's positive. Yeah. You can go with that. Leonard Nimoy. Just, he's a great guy. I like following him. I watched the documentaries on him. So that kind of positive thing, I think everyone in the world has the right to a fair chance in life. And I say to everyone, be brave and curious, not fearful and suspicious. That's what I say. And we've got to be brave and curious. That's the only way forward for humanity.
Well, selfishly, welcome back to LA, and I will see you opening night, actually. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much. It has been such an honor. We've been waiting to chat with you. So, Susie, it is such a special honor.
Thank you.
Where do you want people to find and follow you?
EddieIzzard.com is a good place to go, and there you can buy the tickets, and we'll be here at the Montalban Theatre. And I'm saying Montalban because there's an accent on the A, and I'm learning Spanish because I'm going to be touring more in Spanish, and that's where the accent should go. And he was a great actor, Ricardo Montalban, The Wrath of Khan. But also look up the Columbo episode with him, set in Mexico. Yeah, get Columbo, get the series, find the episode with Ricardo Montalban and Peter Falk, and it's excellent. Peter Falk's such a great actor. So he was Oscar nominated before he went into that. So such powerful work there, and those two are really great head to head.
All right, thank you, Susie. Go rest because we know you're in it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Well, that's all, folks. It's always a grab bag of fun here and On the Rocks. A big thank you to our engineer Xavier, to Straw Hut Studios. Please like, share, subscribe, so we can continue bringing this fabulous programming coming your way. Can you imagine we mixed a little Star Trek with a little Susie? Yes. That was fabulous. Until next time,
you're in cloud 9.
I am on cloud 10. After a little bit, I'll be on cloud 12. Anyway, no. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy. Maxine, if you drink, stay tipsy. Sassy. This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at ontherocksradioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.